I want to be around fighters. I want to be around people that fly fighters and fly fighters in the Air Force as long as the Air Force will let me. And she says, I thought you'd say that. I just want you to know that I'll support you with that.
Oh, good.
God bless her.
Yeah.
A woman that went through that, through all of that.
Willing to do it again.
She's willing to let me go do that again. A woman that went through that, through all of that.
Willing to do it again.
She's willing to let me go do that again.
Yeah.
And so, anyway,
But knowing you, she knew 100% that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's what she figured.
Huh.
And so
that's cool.
We went through the physical stuff, and then it was like the day after that, a two-ship of F4s flew in from Ubon. My squadron, I told you that I got shot down shortly before the squadron left. The squadron deployed back to the United States. DC Vest ended up retiring from the Air Force, and the guy, this Colonel Blake, who I flew my first combat mission with, was the ops officer. They gave him the squadron, and they had deployed back by then. So the 336 TAC Fighter Squadron was back at Ubon flying combat missions.
Crazy.
And they flew a two-ship up down to the Philippines, and Colonel Blake came, and Al Thomas, my regular aircraft commander, was there.
Nose was fixed.
And so Zub and I were there when they came. We were in the room. So it was Blake and Al Thomas and Tim, the guy that was off on his, just his first name I'll mention. Tim was off, and I had to take his mission because he didn't make it back to his part in. And that poor guy was a mess. He just felt so bad.
I'm sure, but
and he
looking back, that's probably the best party night he ever had.
I was,
Or the worst, honestly, if you look back. There's a lot of guilt that goes with that.
I talked to Tim a lot just the other day. We keep in touch.
That's cool.
And he says, I know you say all's forgiven. I still feel guilty, and I still bullshit. And so it was, I forget who else was there, but Tim Blake and Al Thomas. And I says, I went down and they've got these neat F4s that are wooden carved F4s here. And he says, Al Thomas says, no, you ordered one? And I says, yeah. And he says, I've got one ordered for you with our names on it. And I says, I'll go turn this other one off. I want the one from you.
Yeah.
So I got the one from Al, and that's up in my den.
That's sitting in the den.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So how long after was it that, so you were supposed to go home, you flew your mission. How long after that did they go back? Was it days after that, or is it?
Within a week, they went back to the States.
Holy shit. Yeah.
No, they were going back before that. When was it? Well, something like that.
Within a very short amount of time.
Within a week, yeah.
God, that's crazy.
So, so these guys were back.
Yeah.
And, So anyway, we did the next few. Those guys flew back to Ubon. I went through all my stuff, and then we launched out of there back to Travis Air Force Base. At Travis Air Force Base, I just was pretty excited, to say the least.
Yeah, American soil.
And
it wasn't
It
just
was-
the American flag anymore. It was
Yeah.
standing on
Actually,
the dirt.
America.
It was
Yeah.
him.
Well, yeah.
But when we pulled into the chocks and they opened the door, and they announced everybody at a time, and so it took a while to unload the airplane, but they announced Captain Smith,
Yeah.
and he went out and they released his family, and then they met,
Yeah.
and then they headed off.
You're over there going, I like this procedure and all, but give me the
Hurry
fuck out of here.
up,
Let's
hurry
go.
up.
Taking a while
Yeah.
and just looking out the window and
Yeah.
couldn't see anybody.
I was asking, if
and-
you're looking out the window, you couldn't see
You couldn't see who was
Mom
there.
or Lisa, Christine, or me?
No, couldn't see you guys, and I wondered where you were, and so when I came down the steps, then I saw you coming, and there was
Yeah.
Judy in this mini skirt that's a really hot young lady, and she looks so beautiful.
He's talking about your mom, John.
And there's John in this little flight suit. I'd had when we got that gold party suit
Yeah.
made. You've seen that that blue flight
Yep.
suit.
Yeah.
So I had that made for him. Sent that back, and so she had him in that, and that was a surprise
that's
to me.
cool.
And then the little girls were in those long dresses.
Yeah.
And Judy was in the short dress. And just big hug, and then going back in. As they were coming out, one of my favorite photos of John and his mother are he's got a hold of her hand, and he's pulling her. And
Yeah.
she's got her hand out, and they're heading out to the airplane, and you're pulling her along.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry to the
I
rest of
love
the
that.
family for my joke, by the way.
Yeah. But yeah.
Any of the family
But
that's
do-
watching, I
do love
apologize.
that. I love that. You talking about me, Mom, Lisa, and Christine, and they got their dresses going, and
Yeah.
their hair's flying.
Yeah.
I kind of
I've
had
seen that
a
one.
little longer hair.
We've got.
I had hair.
That's cool.
We're talking about those films. Those pictures are stills of the film I have. We have to get
Yeah.
those out, and
Yeah.
Gotta figure
we'll,
that out.
we'll take care of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to put them on VHS or something.
Yeah.
So we hugged and kissed, and then headed in. My mom and dad were inside, and
Oh, they were there too?
yep.
Oh, that's cool.
They had flown them down.
Yeah.
So went in and gave my mom a big hug, and
Yeah.
turned to my dad, and my dad stepped back, and he said, "Fred, this touched me." He said, "You spend half your life with one foot in a bucket of shit, and you always come out smelling like a rose." I love that.
It's true.
I love
Yeah.
that. It's so true. And we gave each other a great big hug. I love that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was really fun. Then my mother's sister was there, Eileen Warden, and her son Dan, who was a real hippie, an anti-war guy, but real respectful guy.
That's
he
good.
was just
Yeah.
against the war. They weren't going to let him in. It was a fight, but
Yeah.
I'm glad he did. And
Yeah.
and Dan and I are really fine with the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
Well, at the end of the day, like you said, that's
yeah,
the reason we live here.
that's exactly the reason. So we had that. We had 2 weeks at Travis, and
2 weeks. Of course, I don't remember any of that, but I didn't realize we were there for 2 weeks.
I went through quite a physical. I got intel classified debriefings. I got people talking to me about what I wanted to do in the Air Force. The guy came and talked to me about assignments. And I said, well, I've really thought it over. I was thinking about going to veterinarian school, and I was thinking about some different things. I really kind of wanted to still to fly fighters, but I don't know. And I was kind of hem-hawing around. He said, Fred, would you like to go to pilot training? And I said, well, I have.
Yeah.
And I washed out. And he said, would you like to go to again and then get your fighter out of that? And I said, yes.
Yeah.
And so then that was my assignment.
Yeah. That had to have been a hell of a feeling, though, to realize, like, okay, here's my chance.
Yeah.
You know, I earned this shit.
Yeah.
What he said was, actually, his opening statement was, Fred, you can have any assignment you want in the Air Force.
Right.
He says, we're not going to kick somebody. Oh, he says, you've got to qualify for that position or be willing to go off and get an education that will qualify you for it.
Yeah.
And we're not going to kick anybody out of a job to give that job to you.
Right.
And then he said the pilot thing, and that's when I said, yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy answer.
So we got that done, and then we got an invitation to go to dinner over at the governor's mansion. And we said, whoa, okay, we'll do that.
This is in California.
Ronald Reagan.
Yeah. Yeah, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And so he was inviting
That's right,
all
because
of them.
Travis is pretty close to out
Yeah.
in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Was where.
So, he invited all of the POWs over. And most of them said yes, but he said, I don't want to, we're not going to have it en masse. I want just a few people. And I think there was 4, at most 6. I think it was 4 of us with our wives. And it was a wonderful evening. They were just so gracious, you know. And
Yeah.
and he says, oh, you just don't know what's going on here. This is a couple things going on. What do you guys think? You know, what would you, if you were me and I was you, what would, you know, stuff like that, and really paid attention and had a wonderful dinner. And then Nancy took the girls off in a room, and we went in another room and had some cognac and a cigar, and it was just a wonderful evening.
with Ronald Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
That was, I respect him to this day, and that was just a wonderful, wonderful time.
Huh.
I bet.
So then we finished up all the stuff that we had to do there at Travis, and they sent a KC-135 from Fairchild Air Force Base.
Shout out.
Came down to pick us up.
I knew that was coming.
And they loaded us on this 135. The one drawback was there was a lady on there going back, and her husband didn't come home.
Yeah.
She'd come down in case there was, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. But so she was going home, and she was on that flight.
Yeah.
They had a big, we got airborne. They were doing everything right, getting airborne. And then we kind of got up to altitude. Seat belts are off, do whatever you want. They set up the table. They put out the liquor and the food, and I said, that's my table.
Yeah.
And they took Judy up to the cockpit. They sent John up to the, you use a boom back there to air refuel people. They had him laying back there, running the boom around in and out. And they put Judy in the seat, in the co-pilot seat, and says, okay, get a hold of the yoke. And they turned off the autopilot, and she's flying this airplane. We're going up and down, and we're flying along, and she's up there scared shitless. And John's back flying the boom, and I'm drinking champagne and eating hors d'oeuvres. It was a good flight.
John, was this the start of Johnny Toggles?
Oh, well,
Johnny
give me that.
Toggle.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Johnny Toggle.
So
Yeah.
So that was a fun trip back. We landed at Fairchild Air Force Base, and there was a big crowd. It was just awesome. Number
As
one,
there should be.
my grandfather was welcomed by the VFW and the VA. People were standing there on both sides and came out and between the alcohol breath from these old guys lined up there welcoming you home. Wow. But my grandfather was there, gave him a big hug, and
that's awesome.
my sisters and aunts and uncles, and it was real special.
Yeah.
Bobby.
And, Bobby, of course.
There's
Yes.
a picture of him holding me, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was, it always stands out. I'm sure you remember this, but there were people holding a sign that says Idaho's favorite Eagle Scout.
Yes.
And it was one of those pictures. Because he's an Eagle Scout, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Proud of that.
Pretty rare.
Proud
Pretty
of
rare. Yep. Should be.
So, yeah, just a whole lot of friends, a whole lot of really neat people. And some people made a little bit of a talk and stuff, but then they let us get going to get back to Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah.
And so they had a caravan of cars, and there's quite a few people. And they said, but that's nothing. And we hit the state line, and there was a huge caravan that we teamed up with that. And then we all came back into town, went down to the Freedom Tree that I didn't know anything about, but I learned about real quick.
Right.
And went down to the Freedom Tree, and the mayor gave a talk and said thank you and stuff. So it was just a real welcome home to a town in North Idaho that I love.
Yeah. And that's so nice that you got that reception when so many people didn't.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got a little bit more to say about. Well, I'll go ahead and talk about that because then a week from that they had a parade for me to go through town, and it was like a 4th of July parade for Fred, and Judy and the kids in a car. It was just a real fun, real nice welcome, and I just appreciated that so much, and invited to go to school classes and all kinds of things and go talk to people. Kids always wanting to know, were you tortured? And what did you eat?
Yeah.
So
I think Josh asked both of those questions.
I believe I have.
And so that was really fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Had Mike, who was a good, became a friend of mine. I didn't know him then, but got to know him down the road. And Mike had been a medic over in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Gone through horrible shit, just horrible stuff. When he came back from Vietnam, he'd come back in uniform, and he was so excited to get home. And he landed in San Francisco, and walking through the terminal, he saw this young girl running up. He said, "Oh, somebody's going to welcome me home." And she ran up, spit it in his face, and said, "Baby killer, baby killer, baby killer," and ran off. He says, "That was my welcome home."
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of my fellow vets that went through something like that. And
It's unfortunate that
it really is.
Like I say, everybody can have their own beliefs. That's why we live here. But at the end of the day, fuck you for doing that.
Protest the government.
Yeah.
Don't protest the people that are following orders.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I've given quite a few talks and speeches around here, and I always start off my speeches with thank yous to those guys who
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, we're back.
Welcome back.
And we decided to bring in another very special guest. About the favorite woman in my life is my mother. This is Judy McMurray. Say hi.
Hi.
Anyway, Dad, I don't know if you want to take back over. You wanted to
Yeah.
go.
I'll jump in.
All right.
As I had talked before, now I want to regress a little bit. We went over there on 30-day orders. We went over for a month. Well, we're 4 months into it, still staying there. Hadn't heard anything about going home. A couple weeks after that, it was somewhere around getting close to the 5-month time frame. they said, okay, you're going home, and we were going to go home at the end of 6 months. And so I wrote Judy to let her know when we were coming, and we ended up deciding she was going to go back to the States, going back to Seymour Johnson from Idaho, and she was going to celebrate our anniversary on September 11th, and she was going to go out with my parents and then leave there the next morning for Seymour Johnson. So also, since I knew when I was leaving and I knew when she was going to get there, I ordered her a dozen red roses.
That was nice of you.
Put a card in there saying, I'll see you soon, love, Fred. And to have that delivered the next day. And so then the time frame came and got close. And as I was telling, I got on that mission that was going to go out on September 12th over there, which was the 11th in the States.
Yeah.
In North Carolina.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
In North Carolina, not,
Yeah.
It was still the 11th all over
I
the
guess.
States. Yeah.
It's funny how that works, Judd.
Yeah. But, yeah. There's a date line's not in Kansas. So anyway, and then told the story and talked about getting shot down. As I was floating down in the chute, Judy was out with my parents celebrating the anniversary. And then once I was shot down, it takes a while to get the information who was shot down and to get it to the right places. Where was Judy? Where's Fred's wife? And to get the information to her, they got the information to Fairchild. And Fairchild said, oh, this is really in the middle of the night. We're going to head over the next morning.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to tell a few things that was told to me by Judy and my parents, but she is the one that knows more about this getting out. So all I know about that stuff, of course, I wasn't there. But so they sent the team, the notification team, over to our my parents' house in Coeur d'Alene, and they passed, not seeing each other. Judy or my parents were taking them over, and she can talk about that a little bit, I think. Then, as she was doing that, when the team got to my parents' house and knocked on the door, they didn't answer, and my grandfather, Pappy, saw them over there, and he went over and said, what's going on? And they said, we need to talk to Judy McMurray. And he said, she's not here. She's on the way to the airport. And she may be there by now. And he says, does this have to do with Fred? And they said, I'm sorry, we need to talk to Judy.
Yeah.
And so they went looking for a payphone because we don't have cell phones, and called over to the airport, and they paged Judy, and she was airborne, barely.
Jeez.
And so my dad went to the phone, answered the phone, and it was the Air Force. The guy who was a colonel introduced himself and said, we are in Coeur d'Alene. We're coming over there. And he says, does this have to do with Fred? And he says, we'll talk about it when we get... He said, yes, but we'll talk about it when we get there. And they headed over, and my dad got a hold of people there and wanted them to turn the flight around, and they said nope, they're going to continue.
Yeah.
And then Judy can tell us about when you were heading over. Didn't Lisa get sick?
Oh,
On the drive to the airport?
I
So it
wouldn't
was-
doubt it.
It was Grandma and Grandpa, you, and then us kids.
Right.
And a cat?
Yep.
Oh,
Had to get the cat in there.
a Siamese cat, just so you can visualize it.
Yeah.
A meowie.
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt Lisa got sick on the way. She usually did.
Yeah.
But we went to the airport and, well, I forget everything except boarding on the plane. They helped me get on. That was
Right.
back when his dad came on the airplane with me.
Oh, they helped you get on that.
Yeah.
Grandparents. Yeah.
Oh, they were able to just walk on and
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
you. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know.
Be nice to go back to those days.
I know, wouldn't it?
Huh.
Yeah, so we got on the airplane, but I was going to check the cat into the baggage, but the baggage people were on strike,
Oh, really?
so didn't have anything to put her in, so they gave me a cardboard box
Oh, geez.
to put her in. And I had tried to give her a tranquilizer,
Yeah.
but I don't think it worked. Put the cat in the box, carried her on with
Yeah.
the kids, and we got sat down and took off. But the whole time, we went to Denver first, and the whole time the cat was meowing up a storm in that
In the box. And
box, in the cardboard box.
I don't know if this is just other cats I'm thinking of, but did Samantha, did she yowl?
Yes, she
Okay.
yowled the
I
whole
thought she,
time.
and so she
Oh,
was
geez.
yowling the whole time.
Did she
And-
wasn't
well,
she scratching?
kept clawing at the box. But we did get to Denver, got off the plane, took the kids, because 2 were in diapers. So I went to a bathroom. I don't know that they had the
Probably didn't
changing
have- I doubt
tables.
it. Yeah,
I don't
probably
know.
not.
Probably laid you on the floor. Yuck. With the cat who was yowling, and tried to give her a pill.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure she got it. And I went to the gate, and the gal said, "You want on this plane? They're about to back out and take off." So they opened the door, and we clambered on the plane.
And
And everybody, I mean, I felt like I was going
We've all seen that scenario walking in when you go, "Don't
Please,
sit next to me, please."
No.
Yes. So sat there and went to Chicago, and on the way, the cat was yowling, scratching, and clawing her way out of the box.
Oh, geez.
And a flight attendant came along, and I don't know why she thought I needed help. But
They're up there like, who has to go help that lady?
Yeah. Rock, paper, scissors. You're in.
But the box, went up to it,
Yeah.
so you could hang on. And she pounded that down and taped it closed. And the yowling continued
Yeah.
to Chicago. And that was before the jetway. So we climbed down the plane when we got there. And by that time, before I got into the terminal, I threw the box down because she had clawed her way
Yeah.
out.
It was
So I walked through the airport,
By the neck?
hanging on to Christine, I'm sure,
Yeah.
and you, and the cat, and she was
Just clawing the heck out of you. Oh,
Yeah.
geez.
Chuck her.
Yeah.
Into the garbage.
I know. I went along and if people looked, and so I said, "You want a cat?"
Do you want a cat or would you like a John?
Yeah, either one. Take John or the cat.
And I just got to interject here. because I think it's an important point to make. How old were you at the time?
Well,
24.
24.
Or five.
well, she's
25.
born in 47.
25. Just turned 25.
25.
Okay.
25 years old.
Crazy.
My
Like
daughter's 26.
Yeah.
25 with the 3 kids, 2 in diapers, a mad cat clawing all over the place, yowling.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So, but fortunately, checking in, they weren't on strike, so I could leave the cat with them. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a question
And that was in
for you.
Chicago?
yeah,
And then so the rest of the way, it was
Yeah.
just us 3 kids.
yeah. But
What-
we spent 4 hours in the Chicago airport trying to
geez.
entertain, and all Lisa had was a little, well, overnight case is what we called them, enough for some diapers and a few little books.
Yeah.
And so we spent 4 hours.
So Lisa
there.
would have been 5.
Yeah,
5 or 6.
So not helping a whole lot along the way is what I'm getting at.
Well-
You got 3 that
Yeah.
are helpless. It's
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I didn't have to take care of her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll bet she was helpful.
Yeah. I'll
Yeah,
bet
as
she
much
was.
as she could be,
As
but
much as
she's
a
still
six,
yeah.
It's not like she's 10
No.
and here,
No.
carry this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also got a question of you. I remember you telling about which was a leg that you were sitting next to a guy and you got a drink, and then he said, I think you need this more than I do.
No, I didn't get a drink. That
Oh.
wasn't on the way there. It was maybe on the way back home. I mean,
Oh,
somewhere
other.
he was
okay.
sitting across the aisle and looked over and had a glass of scotch, which I'd never tasted.
Oh,
And he said, "Here, you need this more than I do."
Yeah.
And I took it. and
Yeah.
I
So
had a few
you
sips.
and us 3 kids went from Seymour Johnson to Coeur d'Alene, then back to Seymour Johnson, and then,
And
or did
then-
you stay there for a while?
Well, I stayed there until about January,
Oh, okay,
September.
all right. It's a lot of traveling
Yeah.
without much help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was on the way back.
way
to
back.
Coeur d'Alene
Okay.
when I
Yeah.
All right, so
got the help.
they have told Grandpa Mac, my grandfather Roy McMurray, great man also, told Grandpa and Grandma Pat, great woman, having to put up with a lot of stuff. They tell them at Fairchild?
No, they're at the airport, and Dad was, of course, like I said, trying to have him get the plane turned around, and this colonel said, "Mr. McMurray, this is the best thing. We'll have the whole thing set up. She's going to have the squadron. They'll just take better care of her, and they'll be able to handle it. They're going to get information faster. It's going to be better for Judy to go, and then she can decide after some things settle down."
Okay, whether, yeah. Huh. And
So then were they waiting there when you got off the plane?
Some friends that were planning to pick me up came and picked me up and didn't say really anything and directed me to a room.
oh, and they
took
knew? Or they
yeah.
knew
They
something
knew.
was, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because it's
It was
people in the
set
squadron,
up,
yeah.
and you said that somebody, friends of yours, grabbed the kids.
Yeah,
and they
they-
went one direction, and they took you another direction.
Which
Yeah,
at the
they
time you're
told
probably going, whatever it is, thank God somebody else has the kids right
Yeah.
now. Yeah. I'm done with
Yes.
these guys after the
Yeah.
plane. Huh.
Yeah, then it kind of gets hazy.
Well,
Yeah.
I remember you saying that you walked in and you saw another friend, but you saw that there was a priest and Colonel Hildreth, who was the wing commander, and you knew something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
And, I mean, do they tell you he's just missing and we're not sure?
Yeah, they might have said they were shot down. I don't
Yeah.
and
I would imagine
rejected.
Yeah, I would imagine things just go numb and
Yeah, it kind of did. And it was at night by the
Yeah.
time we got there.
Yeah.
And
And they did. You said they told you that I had been shot down, and they were planning a SAR, a search and rescue mission, which they ended up doing. It was the largest rescue mission ever launched that headed up to get us.
Wow.
And of course, we were captured by the time they got up there.
Yeah.
But then we've got a piece of paper somewhere in the house that talked about, it was from the North Vietnamese, and it said they'd shot down an airplane, and that there was one of the air crew members still had his parachute on and went running through a village, and the people were finally ran him down and grabbed the parachute and got him stopped. And that you said, that sounds like Fred.
Yeah, I was going to say, be honest, Judy. You thought that was him 100%.
Brad. Well, didn't a woman capture you,
Yeah.
supposedly?
Yeah. They said a woman. It was a child. And what might have done, because when I actually was shot down and they captured me, they had me blindfolded and walked along for a ways heading towards the village, and they stopped me next to a stump and untied my blindfold and untied my hands. And I turned around and looked, and a young girl that was 10 to 12 years old was standing on a stump behind me, pointing a rifle at me. And
Wow.
they clicked off some photos, and then they tied my hands back up, blindfolded me, and off I went.
Huh.
But so she was supposedly the one that ran me down and captured me, and that might have evolved into this other.
yeah.
I
was
just
running
imagined running through the with your parachute
Hung up
still
on
behind.
stuff. Damn it! Come on.
These twigs are all in the way.
I'd be curious, like, if that girl, because she would have been 14, 15 years younger than you. Mm-hmm. She's of the age where she most likely is probably still around.
Yeah.
I'd be curious what.
Oh, yeah.
What she tells her kids and
Right.
stuff.
Because I'm sure she's got a copy of that photo. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so you're told it's Seymour Johnson and
the
at the
airport.
airport, and then they drive you and us home. And does someone stay with you that first night?
Well, I can't remember. The only thing I remember about getting home is walking into the bedroom, and we lived in a duplex, so there was somebody right next to us in the from our bedroom. There was, and walked into the bedroom. I'm not a religious person, but we had a crucifix hanging on the wall, and when I walked into the bedroom, it was on the floor, and I couldn't imagine how it just fell off the wall.
Right.
Wow.
So
That would,
that's the only thing I remember. I think
You're good.
maybe, I don't know.
But I mean, just to, because that's, you hear tragic stories all over the place, and that ends up kind of being the worst thing is the unknown.
Yeah.
And so you don't know for quite some time that I think he might have mentioned when they were releasing information about that you were actually on a list of, and I forget now when exactly that was, that they said, yes, he's on the list of prisoners of war. So you knew at that point
They
he's
did.
alive.
When they signed the peace, one of the things in that was that they had to notify that we were by name who was there and who was coming out. And so that was still quite a bit prior to coming home. I think it was after 4 months, that I was missing in action for 4 months. And then they let her know.
Right.
Well, they let me know that Frederick C. McMurray was a prisoner, but there were 2 Frederick C. McMurrays.
Yeah.
And then didn't they
That's crazy.
somehow confirm it was you?
Yeah,
through-
because he was a black man.
Oh,
That
that's
was-
right.
the one that was killed was black.
And so you, for 4 months, you didn't know. And so, I mean,
Well, I just thought he would be coming home.
yeah, I guess, yeah.
I guess I didn't give up.
Did reports come back after that mission? Did somebody say, I saw 2 good shoots? And they think, okay, well, that's a good start.
Came back, they saw 1 good shoot, and they talked to Rudy Zuberbuehler on the ground. Rudy was, I talked earlier about when we ejected. I went over, I landed on a little ridge to the north and crossed over to the north side. Rudy landed on a big ridge that was a little bit to the south and crossed over to the south side. And Bill Luke, who was our wingman, saw 1 parachute, and that was Rudy's.
Oh.
And the reason is the airplane was pointing straight up, and I went out first low, and it went up a number of thousand feet before Zub went out.
Oh.
And on the mission, the next day they talked to Zub. And so they asked Zub if he had seen me or seen my shoot, and he said no. And so they knew Zub had been alive, but there had been no contact with me, and they didn't know
So
that
the unknown
I
is still really an unknown.
And so that was on the radio that they were talking to him.
Yeah, they had a big strike mission go in the next day, and it was down to the south, and I could hear it coming in, and I could hear bombs, and when it came out, the sound stopped, and I couldn't see, and at that time there were a number of North Vietnamese around my area looking for me, so I didn't think I could talk.
Gotcha.
And so,
Yeah.
hey, I got something else to go back to the day after I was shot down. Judy heard a knock at the door, and she went to the door, and there were those dozen red roses that I had sent her.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And on it was a card that I had personally signed saying something like, "Welcome home. I'll be home soon. Love you, Fred." And so you called the wing commander and told him you had got that. And I guess he panicked and trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
And they figured it out. Told you that. And then you were driving around and saw that Top Gun.
Oh, yeah, the parking.
Oh, yeah, they put the signs there
metal.
for your, yeah.
Yeah, the Top Gun. And it was about that color.
Gold.
Hard to miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's your gold
So-
shirt?
Yeah.
So I said I wanted that,
Yeah.
and they gave it to me.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's neat. Where is that?
It's in my den upstairs.
Oh, I know that. Yes, I know that sign. All right, let's take a break.
Yep.
All right, so I think, Dad, you wanted to say something about Grandpa Mac. Well, I'll let you.
Sure. Like I'd mentioned earlier, after I got back and got reunited with Judy and the kids, and then we went inside and saw Mom and Dad there, but we didn't really talk about it much then, and later never really did talk very much about my father and how much that affected him. I can just imagine if something happened to
Yeah.
John or the girls, that would be difficult for a child. And John and my dad and I went fishing up in Alaska. And it was a super trip. We had a lot of fun, and Dad enjoyed it so much he wanted to go back. So just he and I went back, I think a year later. And late one night we stayed up late and did a lot of talking. And he really shared with me some difficult time, that it was a difficult time for him. And
I can imagine. Well, I can't imagine, but
I can. And that was meaningful to both of us, and I'm really glad we did that.
yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure the same with Grandma Pat.
Oh, yes, but she talked about it to me
yeah, exactly.
before.
Yeah, but she would have been more verbal about it through the years.
Yeah. And then while you were there, am I wrong on that or am I right? Did he build the house that they ended up living in after that?
Yes, he designed it, and that was therapy for him. And
Yeah.
Mom said that was really good. And so that he got that designed, and especially after I was notified that I was coming home, that was a good deal. But he had been
Right.
and had the thing built. My mother would not refuse to move into it until I came home. She wanted me to come when I got back for them to be in the house I grew up in.
Did you what, Mom?
Oh, nothing.
Oh.
Yeah. I can imagine
Yeah.
that. Having something to keep you busy, you'd have to.
Yeah, so that was
Yeah.
it. And it was a nice home, especially with a pool for the kids.
Sure.
My mother really hated the kitchen.
I can see why.
It was quite small,
Yeah.
but she says it was his therapy. So
Yeah,
Sure.
And it's funny, as growing up, somebody would say, "Oh, the kitchen's so small," and as a kid, you don't understand.
Don't know. Yeah.
Big deal. You got a pool.
You just know peanut butter and jelly sandwiches come out of there when you want them and you go on your way.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we kind of covered most of what we wanted to talk about. But I got to say this: when I first brought this up about doing this,
Yeah.
I was thinking, well, we'll talk for an hour, I guess, about the Vietnam part of this thing, and then we'll go on and talk about the rest of the career. And I can't believe that I was going to try to put a time constraint on what you had to talk about
Yeah.
with all this. And so I can't believe I thought that. So I'm glad that because I don't think, and I don't know if I said this before or not, I know I've never heard this in depth of your experiences, and I doubt anybody else has, because
Right.
even with the books, you go on all these talks around wherever and giving speeches and all that, they hear an hour version of it.
Right.
So it's really nice for everybody in our family, especially, and friends too, that will have this now, that can share this.
Well, and thanks for being willing to open up to everybody on it. That's not just for the family, but everybody else. I think it's important.
Yeah, really. And then while you can still talk about it,
Yeah.
But leave them alone. Come on now.
I'm really glad that Judy was here as we kind of finish this off. That
I wanted to introduce. I wanted people to see her, because we did talk about you quite a bit, or he did.
Yeah.
and on a couple of different aspects of this. First of all, taking care of 3 small children, not knowing whether her husband was dead or alive.
Yeah.
And going through that whole thing, I love her all the more because of what she went through in doing that. And so people go through that. There's a lot of people going through that throughout the country now. Our soldiers, men and women, are worldwide getting involved in all kinds of situations like that. Mm-hmm. And I really respect them for that. And there were a number of guys that and gals that have been killed in action or wounded, and there's lots of that around now. So really respect our military.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of those you don't hear about every day because it's not necessarily in the major wars. And
That's true.
yeah.
That's true.
And so something that I want to do, not right away, but at some point before too long, because we've covered the first quarter of your military career.
That's the crazy part. We just touched the surface.
Yeah. And but the last 15 years, we'll call it, or whatever, however long that was it involved us a lot more, and Lisa and Christine. And I think it would be really neat to kind of touch on post-Vietnam life in our family with you being in the Air Force. We're moving around to all kinds of exotic locations like Clovis, New Mexico.
Yeah.
And but our European adventures, like I said to you, European vacation doesn't hold a candle to the things that we did over there.
No.
But it's pretty fun. So I would like to do that at some point before too long.
Yeah.
So again, I want to thank you both. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us and letting us all
I'm not giving you a kiss, Fred.
be a part of
Thanks, Judy, for coming on
your
too.
story.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, I'm going to finish this beer,
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
and we'll talk to you later. Love you guys.
Love you.
All right. We'll see you.